The Let's Talk podcast was inspired by the MISD's leadership and empowerment team, or LET for short. Our mission is to ensure that all students, regardless of race, culture, or gender, have an equitable learning environment so they can become the leaders they want to be. And now, here are your hosts, Daniel Norwood and Ted Madden.
It's episode 7 of the Let's Talk podcast, and today we're going to visit with Dr. Israel Garcia Jacinto, who is an assistant principal at Florence Elementary. We'll introduce ourselves like we always do. My name is Ted Madden. I work for the communications department of MISD, and I'm a video producer and a 47-year-old white man.
And I'm Daniel Norwood, social studies coordinator for the district and a leader on the LET team. And I'm a 38-year-old black man.
This is Dr. Israel Garcia. I'm an assistant principal at Florence Elementary, and I'm a 38-year-old Hispanic guy.
Give us some history. How you got here, how when you came to the district, and what to the point where we are today, what you do now.
Okay. 12 years ago, not only I switched careers, I started as a lawyer. I was a lawyer in Mexico. I practiced fiscal law during 5 years at Deloitte and Touch Services, legal services, in my hometown in León, Guanajuato. Back then, I had this hobby. After I finished my shift or my time at my office, I would just cross the street and I'll give classes at the university of my hometown. And so that was my hobby. That was where I would release all my stress. That's what I would talk to my students about their aspirations. And so later the hobby started becoming the passion. And so next thing I know, I received this email from my university saying, hey, there's an opportunity of becoming an alternative certified educator in Texas. And I'm thinking, okay, all right, well, let's give it a try. Me liking studies and just kind of pursuing my studies and my career, I decided to give it a try. 2 years later, I'm saying my mom and my dad, hey, guys, I'm moving to Texas. I want to be an educator over there. Let me give it a try. And so my parents, of course, were not thrilled about the whole idea. My father especially, he at that point was the CEO of his own accounting firm. And he basically asked me, you're moving where? To do what? Who's going to open the legal services at the firm? And I'm thinking, Dad, give me the chance. If it doesn't happen, I can always come back. If it's not what I want, but I would like to give it a try. There's something about this that is really, it feels like a calling. So let me give it a try. So that was 12 years ago. That was back in 2008. So I started at Gray Elementary as a bilingual fourth grade teacher from day one. I knew I wanted to become an administrator. I probably didn't know the path that I needed to go through in order to become a principal. But I knew, I want to do everything in my hands to make it work. And so my first year, oh my gosh, culturally, professionally, a big shock. However, I had wonderful people around me. That became the first sign that I was in the right place. I remember my team. My fourth grade team and my administrators, there's one phrase that today, to this day, I still remember. They say, Israel, we're not going to let you drown. We're not going to let you drown. And they didn't. They held me through the first year. And so thanks to so much support, came back to Mexico to share with my parents that I was loving this, that I wanted to stay. I say, Dad, this is what I want to do. This feels right. I want to stay. I would like to dedicate my life to education. So anyway, came back, got married in 2009, came back to continue my second year. And during my second year, I was able to get my own house, after saving during my first year. I was here by myself. So I was able to save enough to move to my house. And I'm sharing this with you because after I got our house, I call my folks and I say, hey guys, my mom and my dad, my brother, my sister, I say, let's spend Christmas at my house. I would like to have you all guys as a family, and I would like us to, say our blessings. We usually say our blessings during Christmas Eve. And I want you to know my place and the things that I have done over the past almost 2 years. So we did. We had a great evening, a great Christmas Eve, and my dad right there tells me, hey, Israel, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. And those words, you got to know my father. He would not give you those words just for free. You have to earn them. And he said, I'm proud of you. So, meaningful moment, right? To the point that I'm thinking, okay, hey, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's have, Christmas Eve again. And this time I'm going to have everybody's, what everybody likes, what they like to drink, what they like to eat. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be amazing. And so we prepare for 2011. So 2011, Christmas Eve at the Garcias, at my house. And so, November is there and I'm preparing everything. And so 2 weeks before my family will be here, I received this call from my brother. And he says, Israel, I need you to be very strong. And I knew it was going to be my mom and my dad. I mean, he doesn't say just, you don't say that, you need to be strong just for nothing. And he repeated, he said, I need to be very strong. I said, what's going on? Well, he said, Israel, my dad is no longer with us. Dad, I cannot believe what I just heard. I said, what are you talking about? He wasn't sick. He was supposed to be here in 2 weeks. You all supposed to be here in 2 weeks. He said, I need you to grab, the first plane. Come here, I will explain you. Long story short, he was murdered, attempted robbery, and, so, that destroyed, my life. Went back to Mexico, and I'm just trying to believe what I'm going through instead of having my family come over for Christmas again. I'm saying goodbye to my father. And I got to tell you, I'm a man of God. And I'm thinking at that time, what are you trying to tell me? And those words came back. I'm proud of you, Israel. I'm proud of you and what you've done with your life. And so that was my little push. That was the push that I needed to come back, because I was planning to stay. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was planning to stay and just take care of my mom and just be there with my family. But I came back to finish what I started. Because if he said he was proud of me, then I needed to really earn those words. So came back, finished a very difficult year. Again, support of my administrator, support of my fellow teachers, my friends, everybody was there for us. Years later, I finished my master's degree, and so I became an assistant principal. And so that's where I've been, for the past 6 years, sharing the administration with LaDonna Gully, my principal, and with a wonderful team of educators. And every year is just another sign. You know how you feel after you gain experience, you start feeling different. You start growing in the profession. And so, that happened to me as well. And so every year I feel I'm finally understanding what the message was. I'm sharing my story because I have a point. The point is, when I share my story, that doesn't make me no hero. That doesn't make me, I don't look for pity. The reason why I share this story is because I finally understand that as educators, we have the power to become what my father was for me. He said those words, I'm proud of you. And I didn't know how much those words were going to help me to come back and continue what I've done this past, 12 years. And I feel like every day we have the power to become that person, to have those relationships to have those, to share those words, to have those actions, and become the mast, become the solid rock of someone that is going to need it, in the future. I felt like that was a lot, guys, but that's kind of like my story in a nutshell.
You speak about the power of affirmation, and I know on your campus, you motivate students daily, I'm sure. And
Absolutely.
I know we have so many different populations of students, so many different ethnicities, so many nationalities. What are some of the challenges that you've seen students face who, like your story, may be coming from a different country?
Wow. That's a great question, Daniel. I think that, as an educator who's been here longer than 10 years, not only I recognize, I think that we all recognize the challenges that our families have to overcome in order to even be here in this country. I mean, you're talking about a school district where the majority comes from Hispanic roots. And so as part of the Hispanic community, I know that a lot of our parents, face a number of fears. Immigration, language barrier, and so many other barriers that hinder our community from becoming more involved in a school. And we have so much that we can do. And the first thing that we can do is, with a good understanding of those barriers, we can be those agents of change. We can be that person that says, hey, I understand your past, but let me empower you with my actions. Let's take it a little, how does it say? Let's take it a step further.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Instead of just me trying to encourage you with words, let me encourage you with actions. That's the reason why I decided to finish my doctoral studies. Because I don't want to be, I don't want to be just a preacher. I want to be somebody who people will look at and say, hey, he was able to do it. He was able to overcome those barriers. And he was able to finish those studies, get into that position, do, whatever I'm doing. I think that the priority of a leader is to be the example. That's how we can empower our young students, our community, and not only Hispanic community. I'm talking about other groups. We have, that's the beauty of Mesquite. We have, our community is so vast, and in our community we have just many, many, many groups. And I think that it takes to understand a little bit of our history. And with that understanding, we can empower them by, pushing them with our example again to be more.
You talked about overcoming barriers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main job of the LET committee is to remove those barriers for students of color. There, guys like me could point at you and say, that's how you do it. You're an immigrant. You've got this tragic past with your father. But you know what? You got to work and you did it, and you're a success story. Why can't everybody like you do it that way? So where's the line between removing barriers while also challenging students to overcome barriers?
That's a good question. And I think, let me answer that question with something that a dear friend shared with me. She said, you have to know who you are, but most important, you have to know whose you are. All of us have a history. Every time that I talk to my students, I have a group of students. It's called the Oxford Group, and it's a group of male, very active students from all my schools, from all grade levels, and these are students who usually get in trouble. And I had that group because that helps me creating relationships with them. And so by the time that, little Johnny got in trouble, I already have a relationship. He knows who Mr. Garcia is. And when I say, hey, man, let's sit for a second, let's talk. I know that little Johnny's going to listen to me because he knows Mr. Garcia. I have a relationship with him, and he believes in what I have to say, most of the time. But I always tell them, know your past, know your history, know your parents, know your grandparents, know those roots that put you where you are. Again, I wouldn't be the person that I am if I wouldn't believe in what my father, shared with me on that Christmas Eve, and the effort that my mother put in every accomplishment that I have. And I always share with my students. So let's talk about your dad. Your dad works in construction. Man, that's not an easy job. Your mom, she cleans houses. Or your mom is the only one provider and she has 2 jobs. Or your grandma, has to split her check to make sure that everybody's got, what they need. And so understand the people that is behind you, supporting you. Understand their history. And understand that they have options. They could simply say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go a different way here. But no, they've decided to support you. They've decided to stand by you, to push you to reach higher levels. If you know that, then it's easier to think about your challenges as opportunities and say, hey, if my father works from 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening, if my mother cleans house after house after house, if they do all these for me, then I have to honor what they have given me, and I have to overcome my barriers. I think that there's a critical component in knowing your history, knowing whose you are. Because if you understand where you're coming from, you're going to be able to honor that history, but you're going to be able to reach for higher levels. And that's how you can overcome all those barriers that you will have. No one goes, I don't care what ethnicity you have, you're going to be tested in this life. You're going to have a number of barriers. And hopefully you have in your school, you have in your family one person you trust, and they can become that source of inspiration so you can overcome your barriers.
I know this month is Hispanic Heritage Month, a great month. And the LET committee have actually created some resources on our district webpage for teachers with resources, books, and that kind of thing. Let me ask you this, though. How can teachers not only celebrate Hispanic heritage just for the month of September and October, but, as they look at their student body, which in Mesquite, we're looking at, 60, 65%. How do we honor that culture and those traditions and all of it? And affirm our students throughout the entire year, as opposed to just throughout the month. What kind of things would you suggest?
One of our core values is commitment to community, and when you look at Mesquite, you see a number of programs that the Mesquite community hosts in order to celebrate those bonds that we have. We have a number of celebrations in our schools, with our Hispanic heritage. And you're right, they happen to be very, the presence of those celebrations happens in those months. However, I don't think that this is a waste effort. Just the fact that, the Mesquite community is taking the time to celebrate, to celebrate the Hispanic community is huge. And it's carried out in the following months. I see it. From the very moment that our young students take their own traditions into our campus, and I'm talking about the way they dress, and I'm talking a bit about what they eat, what we all eat. Who doesn't like tamales, and in our community, and then we have a group of parents at our school, and I'm sure it's similar in other schools where parents will have one day and serve the teachers with delicious pozole And then we have one mom that, she's from El Salvador, and she always brings us pupusas for the office, things like that. I think that the impact that the Mesquite is doing, it goes beyond those months. Because to me, it's a door. It's the door that you're leaving open for the community. And it empowers them to, number one, to serve and show gratitude, because that's what I've seen in our community. It's almost like they are telling us, you are hosting these celebrations, you are recognizing who we are, but then in return, we have so much to give. And that's the way they give out to the community. You talk about resources and books, and not only I've seen it in the bilingual department, I've seen it in students in Gen Ed, where the materials and the content, in English language arts or in any other subject, has to do with the Hispanic community. Well, that's also empowering. That allows other groups to see the beautiful traditions that we have, and that allows them to learn from one another. And again, right now we're talking about Hispanic community, but I also see it with other groups where we get to learn about, history and traditions, and even tragedies that have shaped the culture, and that allowed us to understand our community, and to also understand the reasons why, some of these people will do what they do in order to honor their history and in order to make their voice heard, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing your story, and thanks for coming in to talk with us.
Hey guys, thank you so much. It was an honor.
That's Florence Elementary Assistant Principal Dr. Israel Garcia Jacinto. Next week, we'll visit with Russ Weeks, the Advanced Academic Coordinator in the district. For Daniel Norwood, I'm Ted Madden. Let's talk again next week.